Hello, my name is Ashley Forsyth, and for this midterm I will be making pizza dough and explaining the ingredients, functionality, and methodology. So to start, I made sure I have a nice, clean, and empty space to work. I've also made sure that I'm using clean utensils and have properly stored all of my ingredients. So now I'm going to get into the making of the pizza dough. So in order to make pizza dough, we will need one package or 2.5 ounces of dry yeast, which I have here. I've already ripped it because it's already sitting over there. But 3 of these together is equal to 0.25 ounces. So the purpose of this yeast is a leavening agent, which makes the dough rise. It also ventilates dough after mixing to help with chew and density and makes it easier to work with. Finally, yeast helps to develop holes tightly baked in the dough that is in a dense or soft texture. Yeast causes fermentation to occur, which causes the dough to rise by trapping gas bubbles inside of it. So next we're going to our next ingredient, which is going to be 1 teaspoon of white sugar, which we have right here. So what sugar does is it changes the fermentation rate. So for example, when we have more of this, that means there's going to be a quicker fermentation rate. It also helps the crust to brown and keeps water inside the crust. So the next ingredient we are going to add is going to be 1 cup of 110 degree Fahrenheit water, which actually is already in our bowl over there, so it was up to 1 cup here. And the water at this temperature is ideal for the fermentation process. Water also encourages production of gluten and works with starch and flour to bind gluten. So our next ingredient is going to be, that we're going to add to the pizza dough, is going to be 2.5 cups of bread flour right here. The bread flour right here is a hard reddening spring wheat, which means it has high protein content. So once oxygen has been introduced into flour, the gluten molecules start forming multiple chains. So dough forms when water and flour are mixed together under the right conditions. Gluten proteins in the flour link up to form long spring-like looking coils. These coils allow the dough to become more elastic and flexible. Gluten also makes the crust tough enough to stand up to water and the other ingredients. So the next ingredient we're going to add is going to be 2 tablespoons of this olive oil. So olive oil helps to contribute to flavor of the finished crust. It also helps the dough to be better able to retain gas and water vapor during the baking process, which actually results in a better baked height. So the final ingredient we're going to add to this pizza dough is going to be 1 teaspoon of salt. So what salt does, it provides extra flavor and slows the fermentation process, which means it helps slow protein digestion, or in other words, prevents gluten damage. And this allows also flavor to develop. Salt's main purpose is to absorb water on the surface of the pizza dough. In addition, salt adds structure to the dough by stretching gluten, which tightens the gluten network by removing unwanted moisture. This keeps the carbon dioxide bubbles from growing too rapidly. So now that I explained all the ingredients that are going to be included in the pizza dough, I'm going to go into the actual making process of the dough. So the first step is to preheat the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, which I'll walk over here and do. So now that that's been set, in a medium bowl, I'm going to dissolve the yeast, which I've actually already done and started this process. Once the package of yeast is in here, and the sugar and the water are in here, we let this stand for 10 minutes or until creamy. So combining all these ingredients and allowing time is required for fermentation. The process of fermentation occurs when yeast and bacteria inside the dough convert carbohydrates to carbon dioxide, causing gas bubbles to form, which has a leavening effect on the dough. The gas bubbles expand inside the dough, causing it to appear larger. The sugar that I mentioned earlier that we added to this so far helps to quicken the fermentation process. So anytime sugar, yeast, and 110 degree Fahrenheit water and time are mixed together, fermentation will occur. So far, this right here has been sitting for 6 minutes, and as you can see here, I'm going to move over. This is it for after 6 minutes, and this is once again the yeast, the sugar, and the water added together. So we still have about 4 minutes until this is completely done, and I will come back after this is done for 10 minutes, and we will continue making our pizza dough. So now the yeast, the sugar, and the water have been sitting for 10 minutes, and the texture has definitely become a lot creamier. It's definitely risen from where it was at the very beginning when I put this all together. I'm going to show you here what it looks like now. So it's definitely creamier and has risen from when they were originally put together into a much more liquidy substance. So now that we have let this sit for 10 minutes and fermentation has started to occur, the flour and the salt and oil are going to be added. So when the bread flour, when combined with the water, that helps to create the dough by allowing gluten proteins in the flour to link up end to end. As mentioned earlier, the salt helps to slow the fermentation, which prevents gluten damage and allows the flavor to develop. Salt also adds structure to the dough by strengthening the gluten. So once these ingredients are combined, we're going to go ahead and mix them. And I'm going to go ahead and mix them, and I'm going to come back after I'm done mixing them and show you what it looks like when it's done. Here I'm going to show you what it looks like right now, so you can see now and later. So I will be back after I am done mixing them. So I've now mixed all the ingredients together, which includes the olive oil, salt, sugar, bread flour, and yeast, and it's starting to look more like how you imagine dough to look like than it did before when I showed you. I will show you now what it looks like after mixing it. That's what it comes out to look like. So now that these all have been combined together, the pizza dough is then left to rest for 5 minutes. This little resting allows the ball protein molecules to relax and become more unified, organized, and aligned in structure. So we'll let this sit now for 5 minutes, and we'll come back and move on to the next step. So after I let the dough sit for 5 minutes, the dough was then transferred onto a light floured surface, which was right here, and I went ahead and patted it out until it was round. And then I transferred it onto this lightly greased pan, and as you can see here, onto this pizza pan, it's starting to take the shape of a pizza dough crust. So once you have all this done, then you can go ahead and start adding your toppings. So on this pizza, I'm going to be adding traditional pizza sauce, and I'm also going to be adding mozzarella cheese to it, and I have also decided to add pepperoni. So I'm going to move this over here. So I went ahead and cut most of the pepperonis beforehand, as you can see here. A lot of pepperonis I cut right there. I'm going to show you how I went ahead and did that. So when cutting, you want to make sure you keep your fingers tucked back and away from the blade, and kind of use your tops of your fingers here as kind of like a guide to the knife. So what you're going to do is grab the knife around the bolster and kind of use it as like you're balancing it, and wrap your fingers lightly around it. So once again, tuck your fingers back, and you just want to cut nice thin pieces, put on the pizza. So this is the most roundest piece, but as you see here, it's cut a nice thin piece to put on the pizza. So now that I've cut all my pepperonis and the dough is ready, I'm going to go ahead and add all my toppings, and I will come back and show you right before we put it into the oven. So as you can see, the pizza has now finished baking, and I'm going to go down here to eye level, and as you can see, the dough has definitely risen a lot more than when it went in there. When it was originally put into the oven, it was about equal to the pan, and now it has risen much more above. And as you also can notice that the crust has become more of a golden brown color, and this is because of the ingredients that were added earlier and how they interacted with one another. I decided to bake a pizza because I felt that it would challenge me because I've never done it before, and I also thought it'd be a very good learning experience. So I hope you enjoyed my video on how to make pizza dough.